Start your engines. From classic roadsters to fast and furious Ferraris, here are 10 amazing abandoned cars. Number 10. Ferrari Daytona. This super speedster must have lost its way because it was found in a barn in Japan where it had sat gathering dust for an astonishing 4 decades. Experts couldn't believe their eyes when they saw what was hidden away. This was no regular snazzy Ferrari, but a true one-of-a-kind machine. The 365 GTB4 from 1969, also known as the Daytona, could reach a top speed of 174 miles per hour before it came to a screeching stop in the land of the rising sun. That made it the fastest automobile on the planet at the time. Its uniqueness came from the fact that it had aluminum bodywork. To be specific, they only made one. It became so obscure people thought it was almost a made-up story, a car that passed into legend while it waited in a garage. Interest was through the roof when the car was presented at Sotheby's auction in Italy. The event was made even more special by the fact that it was Ferrari's 70th anniversary year. The sellers didn't clean the car, but that didn't affect the price one bit. The Daytona exceeded its estimate of $1.5 million, with the hammer going down for a total of over $2 million. Who would pay $2 million for a classic car? Even a one-of-a-kind model, would you? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe while you're down there. Number 9. Dirty mystery car. This looks like every expensive car owner's worst nightmare. Not only did the driver of this turbocharged machine lose control of the vehicle on a corner, they took it into a patch of dirt that sprayed all over the bodywork. There's going off the road, and then there's this. Embarrassing and also resulting in a trip to the luxury car wash, sadly. Or did it? Actually, what you see here is an abandoned automobile. It's no surprise the owner went off the road, as the location is a racetrack. Having turned the corner at what must have been ridiculous speeds, the car then veered onto a place called the runoff area, where it became stuck. Following the incident, the driver was nowhere to be seen. So what happened? Were they thrown out of the car? Left to lay in the dirt waiting for medical assistance? Thankfully not. In fact, the owner escaped without a single injury, and furthermore decided it wasn't even worth his time rescuing the car. When authorities got hold of the wealthy driver, he confessed. He simply went out and bought another one. How is that even possible? But one seriously wealthy man's trash is another man's treasure. I'd fix that car right up and take better care of my things if it were me. Wouldn't you? Number 8. Rarest milk truck. Now, this is a vintage classic from the 1940s. It isn't the most powerful abandoned vehicle, but in historical terms, it's one fascinating little find from Texas and might be the last of its kind left. The auto repair series Turnin Rust went to Browne Auto Salvage looking for old treasures and checked out a long-forgotten truck that was unlike anything they'd ever seen before. Why was it so unique? Well, it was an intriguing case where a van body had been placed over a half-ton truck, making it look like a strange hybrid. In fact, it was an 80-year-old Chevy, a model named the Double Duty. This weird-looking step van was used to transport essentials to people's households after horses were replaced by automobiles. As you might expect, the milk truck, assuming it was in fact a milk truck in its previous life, was in pretty rough shape. The front grille had rusted off, the seats were rotten, and the wooden interiors needed to be replaced. But on the plus side, it still had its original motor and transmission. Now, this awaits a seriously impressive renovation job, and it could become a true work of art. Number 7. Miss Belvedere. Classic cars of the 1950s are incredibly valuable collectibles, so just imagine if you could get your hands on one in pristine condition decades later. This Plymouth Belvedere, named Miss Belvedere, was supposed to be in showroom quality condition back in 2007. But how? After all, it was decades old. The explanation is pretty unusual. You see, Miss Belvedere was a 1950s time capsule. It was buried in a vault in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the city courthouse and left there for half a century. Why was it buried? It was part of a small festival to celebrate 50 years since Oklahoma became a state. People were invited to guess what the population of Tulsa would be in 2007. Those who got the closest figure would win the car 50 years later. Unfortunately for organizers, their scheme wasn't watertight, literally. When they exhumed Miss Belvedere and took a look inside the vault, they realized she'd taken a bath from a water main break in 1973. Suffering a catastrophic amount of water damage. That gold and white bodywork had been submerged for a while, almost totally ruining the car. Today you'll find it on display in Roscoe, Illinois, mostly restored to its former glory, as part of the Historic Auto Attractions Museum. Number 6. DeLorean DMC-12. Who doesn't recognize this car? The 80s design classic was made world famous via the Back to the Future movies. What's surprising is that beyond the adventures of Doc Brown and Marty McFly, enthusiasm for the DeLorean DMC-12 was quite low. That's because ultimately it was seen as a technical disappointment. The car took a long time to be produced, and then reportedly didn't quite match up to its expectations on the road. DMC, or the DeLorean Motor Company, never made another vehicle and went bankrupt in 1982. Sadly, the corporation was pretty much the opposite of a roaring success. Though the remarkable stainless steel vehicle with the wing doors has its fans, it certainly wasn't a fan who did this to a DMC-12 deep in the woods of North Carolina. As you can see, it's been abandoned and left to rot. Found in 2013, the poor DeLorean has been very much stuck in time, sitting there getting dirty for over a decade. With a dedicated refurbishing, you can bet that this car will be back. Just don't forget the flux capacitor. Number 5. Ferrari ENZO. The Ferrari ENZO is one of the world's most exclusive cars. Only 400 were made apparently. So with that impressive automotive pedigree in mind, who would abandon a little red hot rod like this? That's exactly what happened back in 2009. But why? The answer lies in the turbulent economy of the time. Dubai is known as a destination of true opulence, but when the financial markets crashed, it was affected like anywhere else. The cash-strapped owner of the ENZO appears to have pulled up at the airport, got on a plane and flown away, leaving his pride and joy in the parking lot. That's absolutely crazy considering its value then of over $1 million. Those hoping to pick it up during an auction in 2012 were frustrated when authorities decided to hang on to the Ferrari as part of an investigation into wrongdoing. We're not sure if it's changed hands yet, but reports in 2016 stated it still hadn't been snapped up. Not only has it been waiting in the desert getting all dusty, apparently a number of opportunistic people are coming forward, claiming that they're the owner. Sadly, no one actually knows who it is. What a waste of such a beautiful machine. Number 4. Welsh Cave Car Graveyard. Most notable abandoned cars are not quite as glamorous as airport Ferraris, but some are downright spooky. There are all types of reasons cars get abandoned. Sports cars can occasionally get ditched by wealthy drivers for reasons unknown, but not all mysteries have to do with the value of the car. Over in the more mundane setting of a Welsh mine, you'll find something truly eerie. Approximately 100 cars, which all look like they're from the 1960s and 70s, are piled up in an eerie display 65 feet or so under the earth. The mine was closed in 1960, so the only people who venture into these parts are hardy adventurers looking for a great photo op. Where is this place? Its location is kept top secret, and with good reason. The area is very dangerous, and only experts are allowed in to investigate. How did all these rusty cars wind up abandoned here? Your guess is as good as mine. It's thought they skidded off the nearby highway in wet conditions and crashed. Then, rather than tow them off to a far-off lot, the tow truck driver just unhitched them and let them fall down into the darkness. A hair-raising idea, but no one can prove it. But what other explanation is there? What do you think? Where did these cars come from? Who owned them? And why are they rotting here? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Number 3. Detroit Electric Model D. While electric cars are thought of as a relatively modern invention, engineers spent a lot of time trying to get them to work during the 19th century. In the early 20th century, this Detroit Electric Model D was manufactured by the Anderson Electric Car Company. This classic example of a non-gasoline-powered car was put in storage at a museum. Unfortunately, museums only have limited resources, which may explain how the cobwebs came to grow on this slice of motoring history. It reached a top speed of 25 miles per hour. Not exactly highway material, and could travel for 100 miles after its battery was charged. Eventually, it was restored to former glory, and while it wasn't exactly abandoned in the first place, more just left in a back room and forgotten about, it needed some long overdue maintenance. Now it's like a Tesla and a time capsule, and twice as expensive as any of them too. That's what being a classic collectible will do. Number 2. Chinese car lot. There's a little-known place in China where you can see dozens of the best luxury cars known to humankind. Audis, BMWs, Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, all the big names are there. One little snag, however, they've all been impounded by authorities and covered in undergrowth because they've been there for so long. The so-called car graveyard is in the city of Chengdu, capital of Sichuan province. It used to be a car park, and it still is, kind of. Only now one gets a ticket for leaving a car there. Actually, the owners of these cars are in more than enough trouble already, having been detained and awaiting trial for criminal offenses. Not just one, but 2 Bentleys were found here in 2016. A Continental GT and a Flying Spur were spotted amongst the undergrowth. Will some of these super expensive cars ever take to the road again? At this rate, it's doubtful. Better take your gardening equipment and the proper permits to go searching for buried treasure in this junkyard. Number 1. Mansion with luxury cars. What's crazier than an abandoned luxury car? An abandoned luxury car with an abandoned house to go with it. This was the extraordinary scene that awaited one videographer as he explored the nooks and crannies of a long-forgotten property, complete with a BMW. As you can imagine, both the car and its house are not in mint condition. The car has been subjected to everything Mother Nature could throw at it. That means it'll take a bit more than a sponge and a bucket of water to clean it up and make it road-ready. Meanwhile, the house could be generously described as a fixer-upper. In fact, a handyman's nightmare might be a more appropriate term, since the living room has collapsed into the basement. Who knows what happened to this house or the BMW? The property was boarded up and left to rot by the looks of things. It really is incredible, all the amazing things people will abandon. Thanks for watching. Are there any extraordinary examples of abandoned cars you think we missed out on? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Oh, and keep those eyes on the road.